Hey guys, how's it going? Eminem Gaming here, and today we're back with another video, and today we are going to be talking about PlayStation 4 Neo. My excitement actually for it, and some of my predictions, and I could definitely be wrong, who knows, but just some of my excitement, my thoughts, and all that good stuff about the PlayStation 4 Neo. Um, so I want to get into this, but before we do, I just want to give a quick disclaimer, some thoughts, or just a quick heads up for you guys. Um, so Uncharted 4 may, I'm going to say this lightly because again, I thought it was during The Last of Us, and it wasn't. So bear that in mind. But may have been spoiled for myself. Uh, so there's some guys running around on Twitter. I'd say if you see a guy with an Xbox badge and he's talking to other people, don't scroll through the conversations, don't retweet the stupidity, just let them, stay there in their unhappy state or whatever, and just stay off Twitter. That's what I recommend. But obviously, I make videos, I do all this sort of stuff, so for me, I kind of have to look for videos to do and all that good stuff, at least until Uncharted comes out, and then that'll be all my channel. So just a quick heads up, be careful who you're following on there, because there's some not very nice people and they're trying to spoil the game. But I will give you a little bit of a pick me up, at least, if you may think you have had the game spoiled. These same guys were the same guys who said that Ellie would die in The Last of Us, and I played through the game about 10 times and she's never died for me, so I don't know if that's just my copy of the game. It must be, because obviously she did in the other copies of the game. But no, these guys like to just spread rumours and misinformation a lot of the time. So what I'd recommend is just, stay away from them. I'm not telling you who to follow or not. But if you're excited for Uncharted 4, which I think a lot of people are, you don't want it spoiled for you. But for me, I'm not like heavy into spoilers. It doesn't really bother me as much. But I know some of you guys are like, it might, annoy you a lot more than me. So just be careful out there. But enough of that. Let's talk about this PS4 Neo. I think this is a very smart move from Sony. I think this is going to really help them in terms of sales, pushing on. For me, like I said, this is very much the glory days of PlayStation. Again, the PS1, PS2 era, for me, were the greatest in the company's history. This is definitely getting up there, in my humble opinion, and if you disagree, that's completely fine. We're all entitled to our own opinions. But for me, it definitely is getting up there with the glory days of the PS2 and PS1. So, I think this is definitely, moving in the right direction on the whole PS4, outselling the PS2. I think this is a very shrewd move by Sony. It may seem like an idiotic move to some people, but obviously time will tell. I could be completely wrong. But I think this may be a very, very shrewd move by Sony. If you remember, actually, the PS2, a lot of people talk about there's never been a console upgrade. Well, power-wise, there hasn't, but they did actually upgrade, I believe, during the PS2, the internals of that to make games load faster, run better. So technically, you could call that a console upgrade. It's not quite what this is. This is actually raw power inside the system, but it's definitely they did it sort of during the PS2 to help with loading and all that sort of stuff. So bear that in mind. But I think, this is a very shrewd move from Sony. I think it's very much future-proofing the whole PlayStation thing. I think you put up a 4K Blu-ray player that's the same price as every other 4K Blu-ray player, but yours does more than the others, then you automatically have an advantage over all the other 4K Blu-ray players. Not only are you a 4K Blu-ray player, you can stream to YouTube, you can watch YouTube, Netflix, you can play games, you can talk to your friends, you can do all the great stuff you do on your regular PlayStation, but from your 4K Blu-ray player. And I think that's a big selling point, For me, it's gonna attract all sorts of people. So for me, I ain't too bothered about watching movies. I'm going to be completely honest about you. It doesn't bother me having a 4K Blu-ray player. It'd be nice, and if they said, would you like a version with or without, I'd choose with. But for me, it doesn't bother me that much because, I mean, I don't watch movies, so that doesn't really bother me. As well as 4K streaming from Netflix, I think that will sell to a lot of people. So yeah, I think it's a very shrewd move, but it will also sell to myself, someone who loves getting their PlayStation exclusives, wants to see, Uncharted looking its best, wants to see God of War looking its best, Gran Turismo, all these great IPs that me as a PlayStation fan loves, but the best copy I can possibly get of my favourite games. There's going to be a lot of us like that who we have our favourite franchises on PlayStation, and we want to see them looking as crisp and run as good as they possibly can. So that's who I think it sells to, as well as the PC gamers. Now, I did a little bit of research near the start of the generation, before I was actually on YouTube, reporting on stuff. Because believe it or not, I was just doing this anyway, so I thought I might as well just record my voice and talk about it. So I was reading, that the reason why the PlayStation is selling so well is largely to do with the PC gaming influence. So a lot of PC gamers lost faith with Sony last gen. They moved from the PS2 to the PC and skipped the PS3 generation, and they actually regained a lot of their PC guys who left. I don't know how they found that out, but that's apparently what happened and why they had such a big install base. But those guys have probably had a taste of the PC Master Race or whatever you want to call it, and they probably want a more powerful console. They've probably been asking Sony for it in the first place, and they're probably just allowing it to happen. Do you know what I mean? So for me, I think that's who it's aimed at. Your converted or whatever. I know that's a bit of a strong word, but your PC gamers who are coming from PC gaming to consoles, who may, want Uncharted or Gran Turismo or whatnot. Then you've got me, who wants his games running at the best quality on his favourite system, whether that be multiplats, whatever. I just want it running on my favourite system where all my friends are. That's me. And then you're going to get the casual person who literally, it does games brilliant, it's an extra selling point over the Samsung one, you know what I mean, with the Blu-ray player. And I think that's going to sell as well. But Neo aside, I think this is going to be a very smart and shrewd move for Sony. So what this does is it gives two different consoles on the market at the same time. So you're literally not putting all your eggs in one basket, hoping and praying that people adopt the 4K Blu-ray player. Because if they don't, you know what I mean, yeah, you're up a creek without a paddle, as it were. So what you've got now is you've got your high-end PS4. So you've got a PS4 that does the 4K streaming. It does 4K indie games, less strenuous games. It does 1440p gaming with 60 frames per second. Something that me, as a big old nerd or whatever, is going to love. Absolutely. But it also offers a cheaper version of a still very powerful console, where you can play all the next generation games. If you want to play Uncharted, it's going to be there. If you want to play the new God of War game, it's going to be there. If you want to play the new Call of Duty with all the map packs and single player that they don't have on the PS3, it's going to be there. It may not look as good, it may not run as good, but it will still be there. And I don't think the quote-unquote, and I'm not being mean or whatever, but the casual audience who don't really care about frame rates and graphics, they've got a cheaper way to get into the quote-unquote next generation of gaming. You're going to have a $200 to $250 console that, unless Xbox come out with a Slim, they can't really compete with that price because, remember, the console did originally launch at around about, I think, $500. So bear in mind now, you drop that to $200, that's almost $300 off its initial launch price. That's quite a bit. Now you may say it's the same with the PlayStation, but they've already made their money back, PlayStation, on the PS4. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, and now hear me out on this one, they drop it down to 200. They take a little bit of a loss on that, but the added revenue from the titles, the software that the cheapest console on the market would be, I think would more than make up for the slight loss in revenue from dropping the price. So really, Sony has really got all their eggs in all the baskets. They've got, if people really adopt this really powerful console and they want more powerful games, the guys like who complain all the time about, consoles not doing 60 frames and this should be 1080p, they're probably going to buy it. Myself, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to jump on this Neo, but there's going to be a lot of people who don't really care, or they just want to play Call of Duty, and there's a system for that, and it's the cheapest on the market. I can't see how this is anything but good news. Now, I'm going to talk about a few worries that I have, okay? Now, I think Sony... Look, if I was as smart as the guys at Sony, I'd have a job there. You know what I mean? And I don't. So, bear that in mind. But I think what Sony should do, if they're very smart, is do a sort of Uncharted theme. Not theme, but like what they're doing with Uncharted, do with all their first-party games. You can't really control third-party as much, but try and get them to do this. So, hear me out. So, you got your 1080p 30 single player. PlayStation can definitely do that, no problem. Your regular PS4 can do 1080p 30, no problems. I'm playing through Ratchet and Clank, absolutely stunning game, but it had to drop down in frame rate to 30 frames. For the online, if it's 60, which it will be for the Neo, it has to be 60 on the PS4. Even though, some people made very valid points that, you shouldn't hinder one for the other. But I'm not saying hinder the PlayStation 4 Neo. What I'm saying is, lower the graphics on one to make the frame rate an even playing field. So what you got is your Neo running at 1080p 60, and you've got your base PS4 running at 900p 60, or even maybe 720p 60. Simply to make it a even playing field, so people wouldn't be that upset that okay, there is a more expensive console on the market. I expect it to run better, to look better, but I'm not being affected online by frame rate drops and all that stuff. So I think that would be a very smart move for Sony to do, in my opinion. And definitely, I think one that gamers would like. On top of that, I think, like I said, I think it's a very smart move to not have any exclusives. Well, there's an exclusive feature, which is it runs better, but there's no exclusive games. You're not splitting a community. There's no buy a Neo to get name change. I mean, I'm not in a mean way, but I would laugh if they did that, because people would lose their goddamn mind. It would be funny as hell to me, but I just like to watch the world burn. You know what I mean? That would be funny as hell, though, wouldn't it? If they put PS4, you want to change your name? That's great. Get a Neo. That'd be funny as hell. But they're not going to obviously do that. They've said no exclusive features, no exclusive game. So basically, you're literally you're not splitting the community. Everyone's happy. You get your frame rate that you probably want, and you're not getting as good looking games, but ultimately, if you want the best looking games, you have to pay for it. You know what I mean? So that's my opinion. So I think that's really good. Now, I heard developers are a little bit upset or whatnot, and I want to give my opinion on this whole thing. Obviously, I'm not a developer. I know it's not as simple as flicking a switch and there you go, 60 frames, 1080p. I understand it takes a little bit more development cost. From the reports I've seen today, Sony's not exactly struggling for spare change, so maybe it comes out of Sony's pocket to get 2 copies of the game. For example, I know for a lot of games like Call of Duty, sells nearly 2-to-1 on the PlayStation. Now, bear in mind it has a 2-to-1 lead over the Xbox One, but that's very impressive. It's around about, it's not quite 2-to-1, it's about 11 million to 7 million. So if you throw a little bit extra change at these developers and, maybe gives them some help, especially indie devs, yeah, there should be no problem. Especially big third party. I mean, you got your Activisions, and they literally do it already on the PC. So as you got on your PC, you got the sliders. So you got medium, and then it would be high to ultra settings. It'd be that sort of thing on the PS4. So it wouldn't be like you buy two games. You know what I mean? I haven't got to buy the Neo version to play on my PlayStation 4 Neo. No, you buy one copy of the game and it would just recognise whether it's on your PS4 Neo. It recognise if it's on your regular PS4, and that way it would adjust accordingly to that. So that would be that's a smart move to make. So like I said, with PC, now there are going to be some developers that struggle with this. Just as we see on PC, there's some developers that don't optimize their games well. It's a very unlikely thing, but it does happen sometimes. Some people make out like it happens every single PC game. It's like every PC game's on there, it's broken. It doesn't. Well, that's not true, because 99% of them run better than the Xbox and the PlayStation 4 version. So yeah, I don't think you have to worry about too many developers having problems. But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like sorting out sliders and all that sort of stuff. And I will also say, Sony has been from the start of this generation, very upfront with the developers. They said, we will never make a console unless the big developers are behind us. Basically, if they ask for more power, we'll give it them. That's what they've said, you know what I mean? And maybe they're asking for it, the bigger developers, Activision, Rockstar, you know what I'm saying? Certainly CD Projekt Red wouldn't be, missing out on a little bit of power if they could get more. So, yeah, I think a lot of developers are asking for this. They sat down with them at GDC. A lot of them were just casually talking about it next to the water cooler and all that sort of stuff at GDC. So if they were that upset, they'd be like, "Oh god, this PlayStation Neo, I don't want this." They were casually laughing. "Oh, it's the PlayStation 4K," and they seem pretty behind it, in my opinion. Now, I wasn't there, but by the reports, it sounded like they were pretty actually happy about that. But yeah, I'm rambling, guys. Sorry about the long video. I've had a lot of thoughts in my head about this whole thing. I went on about Uncharted. But let me know, guys. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Obviously, let me know. Am I missing the big picture here? Is Sony the devil? You know what I mean? Like, doing this. Let me know, obviously, your opinion. And always reply to the comments. So, yeah. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you're not already. And I'll catch you guys in a new video very soon.